Hi, in over a year that I had the Push Standalone, I had numerous issues with the thing. As much as I love the concept of a ultimate groovebox/studio centerpiece, I'm still fighting with it at times. Apart from missing functions and constant back and forth between the computer and Push, which is a separate rant-worthy topic, my main issue with Standalone is the performance. Work with one project or song that isn't very complex, it behaves just fine. But for my live performances/concert, I need to bring in an hour plus of tracks on stage with me, and here's the problem. In preparation of my last concert, I found out that cramming more than 5 whole tracks into a single project brings Push to its knees. Even more so if I need some external synths that need to be synced to Push. This means keeping the latency and thus the audio buffer fairly low, putting more strain on the CPU. I tried working around that by muting and disabling tracks and devices not currently playing by utilizing the Green Switch Max for Live device, which when put on a track disables all the instruments and effects on the track when the track is muted. Then it's a matter of creating a bunch of dummy clips with automation that muted all the currently not needed tracks and a bunch of other dummy clips that unmute the track as its time comes up. Same thing could be achieved with multiple instruments, instrument chains and tracks that switch off and on as the set progresses. It's just my current live performance project is just a bunch of separate song projects stitched together. I have a video on live gig preparation where I go into more detail, I'll link in the description. The only issue with this is you can't automate the mutes on group tracks with clips, so I'll have to mute and unmute the group tracks as I move throughout the project. So far so good, but it's still a lot for Push to digest, and there were still issues with Push's GUI not responding and weird MIDI sync issues in the middle of a set. The resulting mega project for the ambient part of my live set has 16 gigabytes of samples/audio tracks and about 70 total tracks of either audio or MIDI or internal instruments. So I've set to find out what actually is possible on Push with the current fairly underpowered CPU. My main computer is a Macbook Pro with M1Pro CPU that can handle everything I throw at it and then some. Here's a comparison of the M1Pro against the i3 that runs inside Push. Right now, Push runs on a 11th gen Intel i3 inside the Nuke Compute module. This is a dual-core, 4-thread CPU that can theoretically run on up to 4.1 GHz frequency, but since it's passively cooled, I doubt it will ever reach that before thermal throttling shuts it down. On paper, it basically offers about 1/5 of the processing power of the M1Pro in multi-core mode. So when my project consumes about 20% CPU on my MacBook, it should run just fine on the Push. Also, Push is running Linux, so no fancy graphics or 200 tabs open in Chrome or Netflix running on a second monitor, so it should be more efficient, right? But the i3 is also 10 nanometer technology and it came out in 2020, which in computer years it's like Middle Ages. It's fine for running Word and watching YouTube, but not at the same time. From development and manufacturing point of view, using the Intel Nuke Compute element makes a lot of sense actually, or at least it did some 5 years ago when Push 3 development started. It's small, it's a complete system the size of a credit card, the specs are decent for a groovebox, it's standardized x64 architecture from a renowned manufacturer, and there are constant updates to it regarding newer and more powerful CPUs. Or it were until last year where Intel announced it's done with it and stopped further development. Asus presumably picked it up, so there's hope for next-gen nukes, but not anytime soon, I guess, and instead of mass-produced gizmo that could fit into anything, it's more of a niche product, far surpassed by the ARM architecture, the likes of Snapdragon X. So getting an upgrade to the Push will take some time and it will cost you. All is not lost though, since Push runs a customized Linux, it basically can run on anything, including ARM, but if it's feasible to just throw some semi-generic Snapdragon X or Raspberry Pi version whatever into the Push and call it a day, it's the $1 million question. In light of how fast or rather slow the development of push software is going at the moment, with pages and pages of bugs to be squashed and functionality added to push, I hardly doubt there's enough devs to make this happen anytime soon. End of the tech rant for now. It is what it is, and don't get me wrong, it's pretty mighty Groovebox, but it's not a complete doll in a box yet. So now for the actual test. The idea here is simple. First test is just audio clip playing without any effects on a single track. I've set up push as audio interface for the Mac with fairly low 128 samples buffer, which gives us around 6 milliseconds of latency, and then duplicate the track while playback is running until we hit the CPU warning and or hear some crackles and pops, all while watching the Mac performance with HTOP. In HTOP, the interesting numbers are the load average. Those three numbers mean CPU stress in the last 1, 5, and 15 minutes respectively. Since M1Pro has 10 cores, 100% CPU load would show as number 10. On the push, since the i3 has 2 cores with 2 threads each, 100% utilization would look like number 4. I also tried quitting all the other apps on the Mac so that we can get accurate numbers, but of course there's a bunch of background processes running on Mac, so this is more of a real life scenario. I'm also recording it with my iPhone instead of a screen recording program because that uses quite a lot of resources. Mac can play almost unlimited number of audio-only tracks, it seems. At around 500 tracks, we get the occasional CPU warning with starting playback, but when left alone, Ableton will play smoothly. So for the sake of the test, let's say the Macbook with the M1Pro and 16 gigs of RAM can run around 500 tracks playing simultaneously before hitting the ceiling. The load average is around 8, which means it runs around 80% CPU. So let's say 500. Now let's do the exact same thing on the push. We switch it to standalone mode. Load the same project. Hit play and start doubling and start duplicating the tracks. while also watching the H-top. On the push. Remember, the load averages here are different than on a Mac. Load average of 4 means 100% CPU. I'm already hearing some crackles. With about 126 tracks. But same as on the Mac, the crackles only appear when doubling the tracks. When actually playing them, it's fine. The load is at 3.1, 3.3. Let's aim for 200 tracks. Okay, so we have 200 tracks of pure audio and the load is 3.7, meaning now it jumped to 4. So this is give or take 100 over 100% CPU, so the CPU is struggling. So on the push we can run 200 tracks of pure audio without any major issues, which is about the half of the M1Pro here. Okay, second test. Audio clips are not stressful on the CPU. Since push loads them in RAM or streams directly from SSD, we can get pretty far with using just audio clips. However, static audio clips are not what I'm after when playing live, so let's run another test, this time with a heavy Ableton instrument and some effects. Wavetable, roar, and convolution reverb are all very heavy on the CPU, so let's combine those into one track and again duplicate way. We're at 8 tracks on the push right now. And the load is 3, so about 70%. Let's try 16. $14. $14 tracks, and the push is not reacting anymore. It's just the mixer isn't working. The load is at 5, around 5, which means 120% of CPU. And now it duplicated the tracks, and it's basically, yeah, it's dead. Let's stop that. It's basically just overwhelmed with 18 tracks. So let's delete some of those. Okay, 15 tracks. Let's try that. Nope. Load is at 6, which means 130% of the CPU. Let's delete some more. Let's say 12. So we have 12 tracks. No, not even that. Load is still over 5. Still too much. Actually, let's try something else. It could be a undo buffer doing this, so let's reload the project. Start fresh. And let's try 10 tracks. I'll just lower the volume here a bit. And let's duplicate 1, 2. Okay, that's 8. That's 9. Yeah, let's try 9. Load is 4.7. Right now 4.4. So this is 100%, give or take. Anything more than this, and we hear crackles. The CPU is overloaded already, but it still manages to prioritize the audio over GUI. GUI is still responsive. So I'd say 9 tracks is a little bit over top. Let's delete the one and let's keep 8 tracks. Let's stop it, let it cool down for a sec. Okay, when it's not playing, the CPU load is at about 40%, 30% anyway. Okay, let's play that. So I would say 8 of these processing heavy tracks is the absolute maximum that Push can do at this buffer size. While we edit, just for comparison, let's say we put the buffer size to 2 seconds, which is basically unusable in any live scenario, but it should allow us to get more tracks this way. Right now at the 2048 buffer size, the load on the processor dropped to about 50%, so we should be able to get double the track amount. That's 12, 13. And it's that, yeah. The view meters in the mixer don't react anymore. I can still move around, but the GUI, yeah, it's definitely fucked up. So let's delete the last one. So at the maximum buffer size of 2 seconds, we get 14 tracks max from the Push, and the load is over 100%, but it still somehow manages to play the sound, although the GUI feels pretty sluggish. Yeah, and it's so let's delete another one. It took it like 10 seconds to delete the track. Load average jumped up to 12, by the way, which is like 3 times of what the processor can handle. So if you're not touching the push and you set it to the highest buffer available, you can run 13 of these tracks. Let's move to Mac and see what that can do. I quit OBS. We ran HTOP on the Mac this time. Open the same project and we switch Ableton to use Ableton push as its audio interface. 128 samples, 44K. That's it. Alright, let's try that. Let's bring it down because we're gonna duplicate it. And okay, let's duplicate. 32 tracks. Hit a CPU warning, but no crackles. And the HTOP says, oh no, we're still in the, still logged into push, so let's do that. So this is the HTOP for the Mac. Load average is around 60%, and we're at 32 tracks. So let's double that. Let's do 64. That's probably a little bit too much. This is 48, double it to 48. And the GUI is non-responding. We get some CPU warnings, 90% CPU. So I would say this is as far as the M1Pro goes. 48 tracks. Maybe a little bit less than that, so we don't get the CPU spikes. Yeah, this is load average 10, which uses all the CPUs, all the cores on the M1Pro. At 46 tracks. I mean, reasonably, you should probably go like 44, so you can do other stuff, like the GUI responding. Oh, okay, let's try getting rid of the CPU limit meter warning. Still getting the warning. 40. Yeah, 40 is fine. So the end result is Ableton Live on the M1Pro can run 40 tracks of heavy instrument with effects. Still getting some CPU spikes, but let's say 39. Just for the kicks of it, let's do the same thing that we did on push. 2 seconds buffer size, which is basically unusable, should give us, yeah, let's say 60 tracks. Let's see. 78, why not? The GUI, yeah, 78 is a bit much. Yeah, that's too much. So let's do like 60 or so. 64. I'll stop the playback so it's faster and delete. It's not, yeah, it's not really reacting anymore. So let's say we try 64. Nah, it's too much. It just freezes up and the navigation is really slow. 64. That can handle. No, still too much. So let's say 56. .56 at 2048 buffer size. Okay, so conclusion. Ableton Push Standalone is a great group box, but despite being marketed as a full door-in-a-box solution, due to the underpowered CPU, it struggles with complex projects. Currently, playing a whole hour-plus set isn't really viable without some time-consuming preparation in the computer or resolving to audio files only. My idea was initially to use it as a sequencer, sampler, controller, and mixer for the whole studio, and it can sort of all do that, but the Groovebox immediacy and, to be honest, fun is being lost in the constant back and forth with the computer. I mean, it does what it says on the box, but there are some severe limitations due to CPU and of course due to many functions missing from the standalone software. So yeah, it's superb and does it all, but it's not a one-stop shop yet, not with the current CPU and current software. Until we get upgraded processing power, and I hope we will, we need to work around the limitations, and it can't survive without a computer at this stage, at least not for my workflow. Thanks for watching and see you next time.